All right, hello everyone. Yeah, I today I think I'm gonna make some kind of tutorial, just slash experiment. Instead of a jam, I'm a bit behind with all the jamming, due to being kind of in a winter blues or something. I don't know. I'm very sleepy all the time, and other than that, working half a day, so yeah, I don't know. I'm sometimes not in the mood to make music or something. I don't get an inspiration because it's all being, yeah, kind of clouded in my mind. And so I was thinking like to making a jam today, and maybe I will because I'm in the mood. But then of course I love to start with an experiment, and I had the TB03 shelved, and I wanted to bring it back to this stack here because it's also very Eurorack friendly, and I just love the sequencer. Especially with the number field, and I think that is really heavily overlooked by all the clones out there. And that is just having this number display in it that tells you on which step you are. It's so helpful. And yeah, that alone, it makes it so easy to program because of that. I mean, you can still program in the classic mode by just going into pitch, then type your numbers, then you go into time mode, and do your note on or off, and then you play, and that's it. So it's still the classic mode, but it has these numbers that are very helpful. So, okay, anyway, I wanted to show you a thing that I just found, and that is that the Pro-1 is really sensitive to gain, and it distorts rather nicely when we run a hot signal into it. So we're just going to use this output here from the synthesizer and go into the external input. Then we make sure everything here is down and sustain is up, that the filter is up all the way, and that's basically it. Now we activate the drone mode by putting up the switch, and then you see a constant light here, means the gate is completely open, so the envelope is open, the amp. And then all we need to do is bring up the noise, or in this case, the external input, and of course start the sequence. So I'm now here at 3 on the scale, so there's still a lot of travel left on that control, and I'm here on the synth itself. The volume is also just at 50%. So if we really go maximum volume on the source, we can only go to 1 or 1.5 on a scale before it starts distorting. So, okay, let's bring this back to 50% or something, and now go past the point, and you will still hear the distortion. So yeah, that's a pretty nice sound there, in my opinion, and it's just using the external input. I'm not doing anything else to the sound here, and basically get free analog distortion. It sounds kind of similar to the built-in distortion section in here, which is of course digital. This is there's 3 circuits in here, and this is number 2. which kind of sounds similar to the distortion we get here from the Pro-1 input. So yeah, just better, more live in my opinion. And even if you I found like when you really go in this screechy sound of the 303, I found the top end to be sounding a lot better than with the circuit. So that's already a plus. So the next thing I want to show you is the K-2, because this stack here is new to me, so I'm kind of trying to find ways to mix and match modules here. And so yeah, on the K-2 or MS20, you got this horizontal line here, and everything below here is kind of unrelated to the synthesizer itself. It's called external sound processing, and then it's an add-on feature basically that is only there to process external signals. And this is really an interesting unit because you can run any sound you want, any sound source. You could plug in a microphone or your guitar or whatever. And here at the end, the sound that is being received is converted into control voltage. So you can use it to control pitch, you can use it to control an LFO, you can, I don't know, use it as a source for your sample and hold, whatever you like. And then here at the end, there's a trigger output and a threshold control. So it has basically an envelope follower that you can set the level of at which it should start to trigger. And then a light will come on and a trigger is being sent. And you could use that then, for example, to trigger an envelope, trigger your LFO, trigger whatever you want, and have that play along with the incoming signal. And that's where it gets interesting. When you send in, for example, a melody like this from a bassline synthesizer, you could set it so that it will always send a trigger on the spike of the incoming signal. And that way you can use it to accentuate the sound. For example, you could increase the volume or whenever it's at maximum or something, or you could start filtering whenever a sound comes in, stuff like that. So I'm gonna show you how that works, but first let's take the easiest patch. And the noise is now coming from the Pro-1 because it's in either or switch. When you remove the cable, it will return to being a noise oscillator. So now the easiest patch is just to plug something in here at the top, input signal, and then go out without any more processing. So, and then we go back into our trusty input here, start the sequencer, bring up the levels. And of course, now you have to balance a bit. You can turn down the volume here, and therefore you can bring it up here however you like. But I think it's always good to have them both at a moderate setting, everything on moderate, so you always have some headroom on all these controls. Okay, so same as before. This one distorts even more. It adds full on noise. Yeah. And yeah, there's kind of a special circuit at the end. Like, I'm here at 90% or something, and as soon as I go a bit towards the end, it adds this noise. I don't know. Maybe there's something else that is there. There's an extra boost that they added in the circuit. I don't know. But yeah, as you can see, it's much more aggressive than the Pro-1. But it gets really funky if you start combining both. So now I'm gonna bring up the level of the Pro-1 as well. And of the MS20. Yeah, kind of like that. So yeah, that gives a bit another color to the sound also. So yeah, let's go further. If you go out of this output here, you will get access to these two knobs below it, and there are basically additional filters inside the MS20 or K2 in this case. It's a high pass and a low pass without resonance, but yeah, it's just for processing. Like you can tame the sound a bit if you like. For example, if you have some harsh top end, you can add some low pass on mild low pass. Kind of like that. But if you compare it to the earlier audio, it's already starting to coloring. I think the audio is gets a bit degraded if you use this part here, but doesn't really matter. I mean, it's a minor trade-off. Certainly, if you are after distortion and high gain and all that stuff, you don't worry too much about that. So okay, the next cool thing that we get here is these outputs here and these two controls. So here we got a CV amount and a threshold. So the incoming audio is converted into control voltage. And the best example I could find is using it to control an oscillator, and then you will notice that it mirrors the melody that we're sending. So I'm just going to use the gate, so it gets a trigger every time a note is hit, just like you would on a keyboard. Press the button, and then it opens here the envelope, so we can hear the oscillator. So yeah, let's just play. And let me mute this one. So now you can hear this Morse code, basically. And we can, of course, change the pitch on the oscillator. But we don't get an actual pitch, we just get the fixed value that we set here. So, and as I said, the incoming audio that is running through here is converted to CV. So we can use this output here and use it to control the oscillator pitch. And the most effect you get is when, of course, you set the amount to a maximum. So this is kind of like an attenuator for the outgoing CV. I should have added that you also need to increase the volume. I had it turned too low from the first step. So yeah, as you can hear, it's the same melody now, but without using the CV output. So I know that you might think like, why would you use that if you have a CV output? The point is you can use that if you don't have a CV output. And that's very interesting. For example, you could plug in a microphone, speak into it, and you could start beatboxing or whatever, and or sing or send in a vocal or whatever, and have that converted, this melody that you sent in, I don't know, some piano or whatever, that you have recorded, sampled from, I don't know, from a video or something. Yeah, and then have that as a CV. That's pretty awesome. And so the next thing is the trigger. So let's remove that. And let's take out this gate also. So we want to use the trigger, and you can see it upcoming here every now and then. So I think we have heard this sequence enough that you can hear it already in your ear and know how it went. So we're going to use this trigger output here, which is now effectively our gate into the neutron. And now I'm going to increase the threshold. And we get the same pattern that we just heard. So it follows the envelope. And it gets interesting if you change the volume on a source. I don't know, through playing with the cutoff or adding an LFO or whatever. So without resonance, I get the sequence, and with more resonance, I don't. We can work with that because it's predictable. So now let's again use the pitch here. That is the envelope follower. So yeah, you can use it for example, accentuate the main, the original source. So let me plug that back in, because we can now bring in the original sound as well. And it follows along, of course. So as you just heard, it brings in a certain amount of unpredictability. So it's predictable to a sense, but if you then just let it go and your patch develops and increases over time, and then and you start playing with the controls live or whatever, then you get these nice side effects, these unexpected moments when things just go completely bonkers. So and that's the beauty of it. Yeah, and as I said, you can also use it with any other sound and get very creative with it. So yeah, for example, not only when you could use it to control the pitch, as I said, you can use it to feed your sample and hold, or do other trigger other modulations. For example, you don't need to trigger an envelope here. You could also trigger an LFO. You could trigger another sequencer to go to the next step or something like that. So many applications here. And so for me, this is like the main attraction of the MS20, really, because that's kind of so out of place, but also so useful as at the same time. Like it's a complete cut off section here of the synthesizer, and you would think it's kind of part of it, but it also isn't, and works very nicely when you find new creative ways to work with it and with the sound and stuff like that. Okay, so yeah, that was my little tutorial for today. I hope you learned something. Yeah, I don't know, you like this kind of videos, and yeah. Other than that, I would say leave a like if you liked it, and subscribe if you haven't. And see you guys in the next one. Bye.